This week I've been working on constructing these 3D shapes in preparation for a talk that I want to use some 3D shapes and show some of these. So when I first started making them, they weren't looking so good, and I spent the week working out the best way for me to make these, and I'm so happy with the result. I thought I would show other people how to do this, at least the method that works for me. So what's important to start off with is the paper. I'm using, after a lot of experimentation, I'm using the heaviest paper that my printer will tolerate, which is Hammermill Premium Cardstock. It's 110-pound paper, a more universally good way of thinking about the paper. It's 199 grams per square meter. Okay, so what I do is I put it through my printer. I put some cool colors on it. I create these files in Photoshop and put it through one way and then put it through the other way and print the net. A net is a template of the shape that I'm going to be making. This is a net of a cube. And what's different about this net than what you see in other places is that it's got tabs on every single edge. And this one here, when I downloaded it, didn't have it on all the edges. Here I haven't drawn them in yet. But when you download them from the internet, mostly they only have tabs on certain edges. And just, if you get that, just go ahead and draw in the rest of the tabs. I have found that if you put tabs on every edge of the shape, that the corners here, the edges of these shapes are much stronger, and they look really good. But there's some things you've got to be aware of. Okay, so you've got your net, you've got your nice heavy paper, the tabs, and you need to cut it out. Okay, so I cut that out without you because you know how to cut out a piece of paper. Sometimes I use a craft knife, sometimes I use scissors. It just depends on my mood, where I'm sitting, that sort of thing. Okay, so once you have the net, what you need is something like a ballpoint pen. I use a ballpoint pen. Let me move all this away, because actually what I need is this stack of paper. What I'm going to do is called scoring. And what scoring is, it's pressing down on the lines that you're going to be folding on. And so I'm pressing down pretty hard. The reason I'm using the stack of paper underneath is because when you want to press down, you're creating this kind of like ridge in the paper. It'll make it easier to fold, and it'll make a better fold. But if you're pressing down, if you're trying to make your score lines with like a hard surface like a desk underneath, not only might you put some marks you don't want into your desk, because I am pressing pretty hard, but if it's a hard desk, you're not going to get a good score line. So use some newspaper, use a catalog, use a stack of papers. You want to be careful if you're using newspaper or something, because while you're pressing down, you might transfer some of the ink in the newspaper onto your beautiful piece. And so just be aware of that. So that's why I like to use the stacks of paper. And I keep these papers around. You might notice that I've got a lot of score lines in this piece of scrap paper. Okay, once you've done that, you need to start folding these in. And they should fold just in the right spot. Got to still watch what you're doing. And I'm starting off just getting these started. You really need good folds for this to look right. And what I mean by a good fold is I mean a sharp fold. I'm going to fold everything to get started. What I'm going to do right here on the edges is I'm going to make this a really tight fold. I'm using this folding tool. It's called a bone folder. And I get this at place called Talus Online, but you don't need this. You can use the back of the scissors just as well. So what you're doing is really flattening this so that when you make your piece, the edges are nice and sharp. So you go around here, nice and sharp everywhere. These will go together very nicely. Okay, there we go. What I'll do is I'll probably unfold these a little bit for some of the folding. Okay, I think I'm going to start here. No, I think I'll start here. That's a good place to start. Okay, the brush I'm using is important. It's a flat brush. This is a cheap synthetic brush. It's not real cheap, but you can get these at the dollar store or in little groups. They don't cost very much. They usually come in packs. But I don't use good brushes for gluing because, yeah, you get glue on them. But these synthetic brushes work really well. I also use white glue. You can use Elmer's glue. You can use PVA glue, polyvinyl acetate, which I also get at Talus Online during the months where it won't freeze in the mail. And what I'll do here is I'll put a thin coat of glue on. Now, if you notice, I'm not gluing the whole tab. I could glue the whole tab, but I just don't need to. And I'm not gluing both of them because, there's no real need to. So put this over here. And take it, and with my hands, I can, I'll press down. I'll do the pressing. Same, just pressing inside nicely here. I'm really taking care of the edge, making sure that it lines up nicely. And see, with that, with using the tabs, you don't end up with that like a white ridge of showing the edge of the paper, which is really nice not to have that. Now, if you don't have a flat brush, you can also use a piece of paper. So this is a heavyish piece of paper. And again, I'm putting it here. Now, we all know that if we use white glue and glop it on, that it makes everything gloppy and lumpy. The reason this isn't going to make things gloppy and lumpy is because I'm putting it on a thin coat and the paper's heavy. So, you just use some control here, and there it goes. It's going together very nicely. And I like to use straight white glue without diluting it, which sometimes you do in bookbinding. You dilute it with something, but because I really want this to dry fast, and doesn't need to be reversible. Okay, so I'm going to go back to using my brush because I really like using the brush. And I'm not getting any glue on my hands or any other place, but I do keep when I'm gluing, I always keep a piece of damp paper towel nearby, because it's important to, if I do get a little glue on my fingers, I want to have something to get it off with right away. So here I am doing this. I'm not going to speed this up or anything because it doesn't take that long, and I want you to see how long it takes, which isn't too long. This is almost done, and we're only 8 minutes into the video. Okay, and 42 seconds. Okay, there we go. Almost done. Now, these have been pretty easy to do because I can get my fingers inside and line things up that way and make sure I press it. I can press it here, but in the last couple folds, I'm not going to be able to do that. Now this one's, go back and check that. Always good to check to make sure everything's sticking. Okay, now here I'm going to bring these up so they're kind of flat. It'll go down like this. And it doesn't matter which side I put the glue on, but which of these two tabs, but I am going to put it on all three at once this time. Sometimes I don't. I could still slip, since I've got a flat brush, I could still slip the brush inside of the edge, but I think it's easier to do it this way. I'll bring it down. And there we go. Like I said, don't worry about gluing the whole tab. That's not important. Now I'm taking my brush, putting it in water because I probably won't need it for a few minutes until I can start doing the next one of these. Okay, and if I do find I do need it a little bit more, I'll probably wipe off some of the dampness from the water bottle that it's the water jar that it's in onto here, so so the next gluing isn't too wet. It's going pressing down. It's looking like it's going down nicely. Yeah, and it is. And there you have it, a really nicely glued one. Now there's a little bit off here, but I can sort of mess with that a little bit, but not too much. There we go. That looks good. I'll probably be the only one that notices that. Just keeping going around, pressing them. And you end up with this really nice cube. Okay, so hope you try these out. You can make them white. You can color your paper. You can have fun. But these are really fun to do.